WNST, Padres, Tony Gwynn jersey here in honor of the WBC. We will be watching on Tuesday night as USA goes after, then of course Wednesday in the finals, and getting ready for spring training and baseball. But all eyes on Greenmount Station in Hampstead on Monday night. My man Barry Trott's coming out. We're going to be swabbing for the Bone Marrow Registry, and for There Goes My Hero. We've done many swabbings up in Carroll County. You know how fond I am of the crab cakes, lightly fried at Greenmount Station. And we're going to introduce head coach Trotz to that here to discuss all things Puck on a relatively quiet weekend. There have been some weekends where there's been more hockey being played, but he's watching hockey all the time. He is Ed Frankovic, our Caps historian and WNST NHL insider. He'll be with us on Monday night up in Carroll County, Hampstead at Greenmount Station. And you're already on the Bone Marrow Registry, so what I figured, Eddie, you and I get together here and try to make the list of questions we're going to pepper Coach Trotz with on Monday night. How about that?
Well, I think the first thing we got to do, we got to rate these crab cakes. I mean, you built this up. I'm looking forward to eating these things.
You've never had a crab cake at Greenmount Station?
I have played in golf tournaments up in Hampstead on the Oakmont Greens right near there. I have never been to this place. I am very excited.
Well, I mean, I'm going to put a little box right here on my chart. It's going to say crab cakes at Greenmount, check for Ed Frankovic as of Monday night. So we'll make sure we get that going on. This is an interesting time to have Coach Trotz on. So, full disclosure, right? I mean, we were into the football season back in November and December. I made a very small inquiry to bring him out at that point. I think you and I thought, well, let's bring him out in the spring. It'll be more fun. They didn't get off to the best start, as you know, and then they got torridly hot. And then we got into this like I was going to the Super Bowl, and I don't like doing events in February because of snow, and I was going to be off in Australia and New Zealand. And I hit Coach Trotz right around the holidays, early January. We put together a couple of nights, and this was literally first choice because I looked at the schedule. I felt like this would be a little ramp-up time, getting ready for the playoffs, that there would be plenty to discuss, right? And I guess when I made this plan, there was no Shattenkirk around. There was no TJ Oshie hat trick as we saw the other night and all that. But there is a little question about the chink in the armor of the Caps right now. And I think that that's going to be fun to throw around with Coach Trotz, that they don't look infallible, but they are impressive, right?
Well, yeah, and it is going. We picked a great night tonight to talk about this because we're heading in with 11 games to go. We've got three teams within a point. We've got the Capitals at 100 points. We've got the Blue Jackets at 100 points. We've got the Penguins at 99 points. 11 games to go. The Caps got 2 games with the Blue Jackets. The Capitals and Penguins don't play, but I believe the Blue Jackets and the Penguins do. So I think it's going to be interesting. I mean, and the team is playing better. This past week, they turned it around. Saturday night was a great win in Tampa against a team that was desperate. We talked last week about how desperate the Kings were.
Well, they're back into a spot where they have to win again, right? I mean, they have played themselves back to the pack, as you've pointed out, with Columbus and Pittsburgh, and the stakes are really monumental, Ed, right? I mean, this isn't they're just going to coast in and go in as a 2 or a 3 seed, and that's going to go unchecked. That's going to be a real problem if they're not the number 1 seed now, right?
Yeah, and I think that's going to be something we really want to hear Coach Trotz's take on tonight. How important is winning this division? And I think he's going to say it is because I think they want home ice, and I think they would want to let Columbus and Pittsburgh play each other in the first round. I mean, if you don't finish first, say you fall second or third, then you're playing either Pittsburgh or the Blue Jackets, and you could be on the road. And then if you win that round, you're likely going to on the road for whether it's Pittsburgh or Columbus, whoever wins the division. So there's a lot to play for these last 11 games. This is completely different than last season's scenario, and where the Capitals were so far ahead. I mean, they had a 20-point lead, and they just never got that sense of urgency again. I thought they came out with some urgency against the Flyers in the playoffs last year, but it's hard to ramp up that quickly. And I think this is just a totally different situation. I think it's really going to be interesting to hear Coach Trotz's take on it. Because, yeah, you want to have your guys rested and not injured, but on the other hand, you want home ice because it means so much, especially when they're playing these two teams, the Penguins or the Blue Jackets, where matchups are going to mean a lot.
And I know, Barry's never, ever minces words with us, right? I mean, like, whatever comes out is what's coming out, right? There's not a whole lot of filter going on there. And you talk about these 3 games this week at home, Calgary, Columbus, Arizona. And again, we're going to be talking to head coach Trotz about this later on Monday night at Greenmount Station in Hampstead. We'd love to see all of you who love hockey to come out and join us. I should have thrown my Skipjacks jersey on tonight, but I'll be wearing that on Monday night at Greenmount Station as I eat my third crab cake. But then there's the road side of this, dude, where, there's Minnesota, there's Colorado, there's Arizona. Then they go to Columbus and Toronto. As we get down to this thing, they've now put themselves into a sprint to the finish line instead of a coast to the finish line. And more than that, it's insane how quickly they backed up after that bad road trip. I mean, they had a bad 8 days, literally, and it's cost them coasting space here, quite frankly.
Oh, for sure. And you got to give credit to the Blue Jackets and the Penguins because I think they've won every game, just about every game other than Pittsburgh. But Columbus has been on fire, and that's how they caught the Capitals. And you know what? At the end of the day, I think this losing streak, and we talked about it last week, I think that losing streak is going to be good for them because I think it woke them up. And I love the fact that on Saturday, Coach Trotz just came out and said, this is a must-win, okay? And you say he doesn't mince words with us. He rarely minces words with just about anybody, but he'll always be extra straight with you because of your relationship going back to the 80s, and mine too from working with the team. But you have a more special relationship with him. But I love the fact that he called that a must win, and the team delivered. I mean, that was the best game they played in weeks. Probably that's the best game they might have played since since the bye week. I know we liked the Ranger game for the last two periods, but I thought outside of the 2 goals in 16 seconds on Saturday night, the Capitals were fantastic. They were skating, they were forechecking. Now, Tampa's a little bit of a depleted roster, but they still got some great players, and Victor Hedman and Nikita Kucherov, who might be the best player in the NHL. I mean, I know Crosby's having a great year, but boy, Kucherov, what he's doing with nothing around him is just amazing. And the Capitals, they stepped it up, and Oshie had the hat trick, and boy, was it nice to see number 65 Burakovsky back in the lineup, and he was really flying. Now, I haven't seen his legs like that since he wasn't even skating that well when they were tearing it up in January and February.
Well, it's amazing when you have the game taken away from you, right? I think that's universal. Anybody that's ever been a sports fan has seen that first night back for that baseball player who's been down, or that basketball player getting a football player back, and it's a shot for a team at any point. He has to be that shot for the team right now, and there have been times he's looked very equipped for that role, and there have been other times when he's disappeared, right?
Yeah, and we saw that in December. We were scratched for 3 games, and he certainly got the message. And the one thing about this injury that if you're going to get hurt, it was a hand injury, right? And he needs his hands, but those will come around. But it wasn't a knee injury. It wasn't an ankle. It wasn't something lower body that was nagging him where he couldn't skate. And he talked about after the game on Saturday how he spent a month with Coach Nemeth in his camp. He's the strength and conditioning coach for the Capitals. And he worked him hard. I mean, he worked Andre very hard for the 5 weeks he's out. And boy, he was flying. He was as fast as anybody on the ice.
Well, and he could be a difference maker with fresh legs. I mean, if you put him, look, I've said this when they lose games in overtime. I know they lost the other night. On 3-on-3, when you can put guys like him on the ice, I don't know how they ever lose. And when you give him space, he's a very, very dangerous guy. I mean, I think everybody's going to play a heavier game beginning, 3 weeks from now. I expect to see that, and it'll be interesting to see how he adjusts to that. Because if he did put on some muscle, if he did put on some strength, this is a nice time to have that.
Yeah, and he has. His body has matured. I mean, they talk about, Verana, being the same type of player, but Andre Burakovsky has 200 more NHL games experience. I mean, there's no substitute for experience, to quote the great Jim Ignatowski from Taxi. No substitute for experience. He's played a lot of games, and that third line, Connolly, Eller, and Burakovsky, was so important on Saturday night because Ovechkin, Backstrom, and Oshie were dominating the game, and we've seen that. I mean, you and I have talked about how good that line is, but you really need 2 lines to put the opposition on their heels. Because if you only got one going, then Tampa's coach could match his players against the Ovechkin line and maybe win the game with his other lines. But the way Burakovsky was playing with Eller and Connolly, the Bolts had no answer, and the Capitals just flat out wore them out. And I think that's why they took over that game in the third period.
He is Ed Frankovic. You can follow his journey at Ed Frankovic out on Twitter. You can find me, obviously, anywhere the internet is served. We're going to be streaming live on Monday night from Greenmount Station in Hampstead with head coach Barry Trotz. We'll be swabbing for the Bone Marrow Registry and for There Goes My Hero. Come on out to Carroll County, get some crab cakes. And, hey, all the food on the menu is good now. I'm not knocking anything. I'm just saying, I'm partial to the crab cakes, Ed, so I hope you get a dish of that. For where the lines are and his comfort level with the team 3 seasons into this, I think that's another part of this is, you and I had 2 years ago, and I know you knew him from 30 years ago, and I knew him from, coaching the Skipjacks many years ago that he came back, that there was a little bit of a homecoming, especially for guys like you and me that are, quite frankly, young enough to still be alive and, old enough to still be there 27, 28 years later, as we are at this point. But I think there's a comfort level for him now, not just with Ovechkin and Backstrom, not just with Ted Leonsis and with McClellan and what's going on there, but just what's at the bottom of the roster and the guys that he's seeing in camp. And I know he was away from camp a little bit earlier this year as well, doing the hockey version of the WBC that we're seeing this week, where there's some fractured nature of training camp. But he knows the whole organization, obviously the assistant coaches he has there, and I'm going to give him one of my big questions for him, honestly, Ed's going to be about the assistant coaches. I want him to go on about what they do and what he did as an assistant coach. I actually have some props for Monday night, Ed. I have some show and tell, from old clips and stuff like that from back in the day that I've posted up. Like the first time his name ever appeared under my byline was in March of 1990 when he came in from the Western. Well, it was the day that the Terry Murray and Brian Murray changing of the Murrays happened with the Capitals and the Skipjacks. It's the first time his name appeared on the front page of the Baltimore Sun. So I actually have that. So it's been 27 years ago. 27 years ago this month that happened. So, there's a comfort level with things and then there's taking this job back in D.C. with this incredible level of expectation, right? And this incredible level of cynicism, right? I mean, literally, right? There's a built-in cynicism from anybody who knows anything about the Capitals. They always blow games in April and lose series that they shouldn't, right? That's the story on the Capitals. He's inherited all of that, but I think there's more of a comfort level in the third year, there has to be, than there was the first 2 years about what all the rest of this means, because for him, for the organization, for Ted, for Ovechkin, other than Justin Williams, right? And there's somebody else on the team that's got
Orpik's when it comes.
Orpik's names on the right, but I mean, they're all kind of in this together, right? They're either going to wear big L's on their forehead and be losers again and be a disappointment again, or, 1 year they're going to have really long, ugly beards, and you're going to see them skating around in some surreal thing that the Cubs fans got to witness last year, and Cleveland got to witness last year, and the Royals got to witness, that thing that feels like, are we allowed to win a Stanley Cup? And I think for Trotz, this is a lifelong quest for him that has to be more comfortable now than it was last year or the year before that, I think.
Well, to talk about the history of the Capitals, I think between you and I, we probably know it as well as anybody. I mean, my dad started dragging me to those games at 9 years old, and you at 15, 16 years old start covering them. I mean, we've seen all the teams. I've seen all of these teams. I've felt the disappointment. I worked for the team for 10 years. I know what it's like to lose in the playoffs and come back on that plane blowing a 3-1 lead, or losing at home when you have a 3-1 lead. A lot of the new Caps fans didn't experience it all, but they understand it. I mean, because
but for the Bondras and the Pavankas and those guys that never won, and Oli, those guys suffered through all of that in the same way every fan that's been on this bandwagon, in my case, since the late 70s. I used to watch them on Channel 20 on the scratchy TV with Dennis Maruk in 1979 and 80. Then cable TV happened in 81, and, cable TV kind of changed things because we got Channel 20 and Channel 5 on cable, and then I could watch the games, the road games, when they were always wearing the road reds. They always wore the white at home, I always loved the Reds with Scott Stevens and Bobby Cap and those types of Rod Langway and Mike Gardner, all those guys. Dude, we're going back 35 years now, It's 35 years ago. My father, piled us in the family roadster for the baby blue ice. He took me down to see Bossy and Potvin and Trottier and Billy Smith and Al Arbor bring the, I think at that time they only won 2 cups, maybe 3. I don't know how many it was at that point. But it was, 81, 82, 83 in that era to go to my first Caps game. And, here all these years later, we're still kind of waiting around. And, yeah, Coach Trotz knows what that – he knows how heavy that is, but I want him to address that on Monday night. So these are the things that are sort of on my menu. I'm glad we're sort of prepping here a little bit, spitballing, Eddie.
Yeah, I mean, I think the pressure is huge, and we talked about that in our last segment last week, and it's going to be massive pressure. I mean, this is, since 1974, what are we at? We're at 43 years, no cup, and I think it's going to be interesting to hear how he says he plans on dealing with it. And I think he's the right guy for the job for this pressure. He never gets too high, he never gets too low after the wins and the losses, and we talk about what these guys could do. As I wrote in my blog, I think it was 2 weeks ago after the Dallas game, if they win the cup, I mean, these guys are going to be legends. I think they'll be legends in this area for the rest of their lives. I mean, this is the best team.
You know how I know that? I was with Torrey Smith Sunday, and Torrey Smith had Anquan Bolden, Jacoby Jones, Ed Reed, Ray Rice. Ray Rice came down to the Royal Farms Arena and shot baskets. That there's a brotherhood about winning a ring, right? And it's only been 4 years, and there's been scandal, and, Bolden was cut, and Jacoby Jones, and Ed Reed didn't get to play as long as he, there's feelings everywhere. I mean, Trent Dilfer, 16 years later, right? Those things happen from the championship teams, but they don't take the ring away. And Ray Rice was very quick to point out, to say, hey, everything that's happened to me, everything that's awful, that night happened in New Orleans, and that night's special, and it stands unto itself as special. And I think we're all waiting for those memories, right? We're waiting for that big Game 6 overtime win, Backstrom to Ovechkin, to clinch a series that sends them to the Eastern Conference Finals, right? We want to see the struggles. We want to see the penalties. We want to see the power plays. We want to see what long beards look like in Capitals jerseys, right? I mean, we haven't seen that. Eddie, I'm on the fence, and I'm just saying this, and I know I'm just talking smacky quack at this point. I'm really thinking about going playoff beard. I'm thinking about it. I mean, I really look awful. I itch. I effing hate it. I mean, I hate it, right? But I'm thinking, like, if I started this thing April 15th, and if I really was wearing the beard, and the only other time I've done this was when my wife had cancer the first time. And I hated it so much the first time that I couldn't bear doing it the second time. Literally.
It is awful. You know me, I never have facial hair. I think we're of the same ilk.
I mean, I've done Fu Manchus, as you know, famously, and that we've discussed this. I'm just saying, I want to do something that mixes up the mojo. You know what I mean? Something that's the special sauce. So these are the topics we're going to have for head coach Barry Trotz on Monday night. I got a lot of things I need to talk to him about. Not that I need him to be my therapist, but I need him to be our therapist here. I need him to walk us through this a little bit, right?
I mean, it's such uncharted waters. I mean, he's never been past the second round, but he's never had a team like this. That's why. I mean, there's a lot of people still questioning the Shattenkirk move, and it was absolutely the right move. And this guy, I mean, they're so deep on defense. You look at Saturday night, Carl Osmer played 22 minutes, and he was the ice time leader. You just can't quantify how important that's going to be in the playoffs to not have to play somebody 28, 29 minutes like Chicago. They're going to go 4D again, and they're worn out. I mean, that's how they won some cups doing that, but they get worn out. You get somebody hurt and you're done. And I just think that addition was just such a smart move by McClellan. I really think that's going to prove to be a difference maker if they can get out of that first round. I mean, the first round is so hard to win. It is the hardest round to win. The one year the Bruins won the cup, they went to Game 7 against the Canadiens and had to go to overtime to win the game. And that's how hard it is to win win that first round. And if you get out of that first round, then anything can happen, and that's where your depth starts to take over. But, boy, that first round is going to be a doozy, and that's why I think Trotz is going to tell us on Monday night, these 11 games are important, and there's no doubt I want to finish first, and we got to be playing our best hockey. And I think that's what he's going to tell us.
He is Ed Frankovic. You can join him, me, us, we, together with head coach Barry Trotz of the Washington Capitals. We are going to be rocking some red up in Carroll County. Kind of unprecedented, Ed. I mean, we've done these over in Bel Air, which was, a nice suburban if you lived in White Marsh or Towson, not too far. Then I had a lot of folks. I have dear friends of mine, partners of mine out in the Reisterstown, Owings Mills, Pikesville area. I had at the Northwest Ice Rink. Come on, man. You're on skates. There's a huge hockey community opportunity out to the north and the west. This also gives people a chance up in the Hunt Valley area, Cockeysville area, Timonium, Towson to come out not too far away. We're rocking the red. Come on out. It's going to be a big night. We got some crab cakes. Throw Chris a note over at Greenmount Station if you need a table held for us on Monday night. And we're looking forward to it. And I think Eddie's going to come with a very, very empty stomach in anticipation of said crab cakes. And you will not be disappointed, okay? I say this all the time because, look, I get a lot of trouble because I got a lot of places. I mean, Al Seafood, been with me 20 years. Costa's been with me 15, 20 years. I got places all around town. Everybody remembers the old days at the barn, and I've eaten a million crab cakes. I'll just say this. There are no finer crab cakes than those at Greenmount Station because I'm not going to be disrespectful to the crab cakes I've had in other places, but they're really good crab cakes. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, I am looking forward to it, and I talked to Coach Trotz after the loss on Thursday night to Nashville, and he was talking about leaving early from Kettler or a 3-ish range. So I expect to see him early up there, and we'll get him some crab cakes. And you talk about the location. I mean, there's people. This is not far from Frederick, Mount Airy. Those areas. There's some big Caps fans out that way too. I mean, this is not that far from there. You can cruise.
Well, it's an opportunity, and you know how it's an intimate, fun opportunity. It always turns into some sort of a Skipjacks reunion, right? I mean, all the people from the Skipjacks who loved Barry in 1990 and 91, 26 years later, they haul their kids off to our show to see head coach Trotz. So it's gonna be a big night. Bring a smile, Ed. Rest up. I mean, the weird part about this is if they were coasting in 12 points ahead, it would be a totally different kind of conversation than because of what happened in California, right? And there's just no two ways about that. It's the California trip has changed the complexion of their season. It has.
Totally, and it's a dogfight, and I think it's better. You need to go to adversity. We chronicled it with the Ravens. Even the Orioles in '83, when they had 2 7-game losing streaks. It seems like teams that even the Miracle on Ice team, right? They got smoked by the Russians right before the tournament. I think adversity makes you stronger. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. I think that the losing streak is going to help because they never had that last year, and look what happened. They flamed out in the second round. So let's hope it's different. You talk about changing the mojo, grow the beard, wear different clothes, something. We got to change it up. But at the end of the day, it's all going to be between Coach Trotz and those guys on the ice and how they do it to turn this around and finally bring us the Stanley Cup because we know there's some champagne he's been saving, and I would nothing more than like see you and Coach Trotz drink from it and me take a picture of you guys sipping that champagne.
Tom Ebright champagne. That story's going to be told again too because that one ages just like the champagne ages. I've never seen the bottle. I mean, next time I'm down in the bowels of the arena, I want to find out where that bottle is just so I can eye it up. I want to see what it looks like. I want to take a picture of the label of it just so I have the target in mind. I know it's going to taste like garbage, but that's not the point, Eddie. That's not the point
exactly.
at all.
Anything will taste good after winning the Stanley Cup. And I think didn't he say it was in Nashville and he had it brought up or something?
Yeah, he's got a whole story that goes with it. So we'll hear it. I'm going to reshare some of the old videos from the last couple of years as well in anticipation of this on Monday night. Head coach Barry Trotz of the Washington Caps joining us at Greenmount Station in Hampstead. Ed Frankovic joining us, of course, our WNST historian and insider for all things puck at Greenmount Station in Hampstead. All the information up at WNST.net. You can find Ed at WNST.net. Also, Ed Frankovic out on Twitter. You can find me, Nasty, at WNST.net. I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live on our Facebook as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. Lots of March Madness, lots of fallout and upsets, and of course, I'm still upset that Maryland's not involved this week. I had to cancel my flight to San Jose, but we will be at the NFL owners meetings this weekend out in Phoenix. I'm going to check in some Cactus baseball. You can check me out on social media for all that. And I'll be in the Bayou Toyota Audio Vault all week long talking NFL, getting ready for the owners' meetings, getting ready for the back side of this WBC World Baseball Classic that's been so exciting with Adam Jones and Manny Machado and Team USA, and now out at Dodger Stadium and keeping us up late at night. It has been a busy whirlwind week here, but any breaking news happens first on the WNST Tech Service, and that is brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. Dennis Kolatzis will be here on Thursday driving you home. He's getting ready for the NFL Draft, and of course, the Ravens picking up some more help over the weekend in the form of a cornerback. So we've had plenty of conversation here. We're going to have head coach Trotz on later on in the week from our live event on Monday night, and we're going to be getting to the bottom of the Ravens offseason, the Orioles, the Terps, and more. We are WNST.net, AM 1570 and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.